dyan, Justice? Ano lang ba, hanash lang ni Putin yan? Or I don't know, he just flippantly mentioned the Philippines. What should be should we even be concerned about Putin saying something about Typhoon missile defense deployment by the Americans?
Well, Richard, the background here is that the Americans accuse the Russians of violating the intermediate range ballistic treaty. No, the Americans were saying the Russians kept on cheating and cheating. They were developing. They were actually in possession of intermediate range ballistic missiles, nuclear armed. So the U.S. said we will get out, and the other.
This is Trump administration time, diba? This is during the Trump administration.
Yeah, that was before. And then the Chinese are not part of the treaty, so the Chinese they're getting a pass. They're developing intermediate range ballistic missiles, nuclear armed. There is no cap on their number of missiles. So the Americans, because they're facing the Chinese in the South China Sea, that's another reason for them to get out. No, so they got out, and now Putin is saying, "Oh, because you're now manufacturing, you're now producing this intermediate range ballistic missiles. We are going to do that also, and since you deployed it in Europe and in the Philippines, we're thinking of deploying it also in similar countries." No, so. Well, yung premise dyan is they violated this. They violated the treaty, and that's why the Americans got out. And now they're saying because you are now producing, we will also produce. Sila ang ano they started it. And the other occasion there is the Americans wanted the Chinese to be part of the treaty because the Chinese were building their arsenal of intermediate range ballistic missiles. No,
I mean the argument of the Trump administration was that this arms control regime was outdated. It didn't take into consideration Russian cheating, but more importantly, China having essentially a free pass, carte blanche, right, to keep on. Not only improving its nuclear triad capability, but also to massively increase, if not even change yung second strike doctrine. So I have some Chinese expert friends who I have been in discussion on this issue. So in that context, siguro Putin is also warning that there'll be countermeasures. But your argument is essentially, ang ginagawa lang ni Putin is that he's pushing out the blame. Gaslighting, I think, is the term nowadays. On that. But I don't think he was like referring to the Philippines, like saan sila magpadala ng countermeasure nila? Vladivostok, North Korea, Vietnam? I mean, doesn't make sense. Russia is so spread thin on the Ukraine front, and like the bugbog sarado na sila, like they're not gonna threaten the Philippines or anything like that. But Justice, what do you say to the argument that, okay, we condemn the invasion of Ukraine. Hindi tayo natutuwa kay Putin, si Digong lang siguro natutuwa masyado. But having said that, since we have no maritime and territorial disputes with Russia, shouldn't we do something like the Vietnamese and Indians to use Russia also against China, or drive a wedge between China and Russia? Because you still don't want those two giants to be together, right? It creates its own complications. And we saw Putin visiting Vietnam, Putin visiting New Delhi. We saw Russians don't give a heck to China sometimes. They just put oil rigs in Vietnam, in Indonesia. I mean, Russians care only about Russians, right? So, di ba sabi nung Nicholas ba yan, sabi niya, Russia only has 3 allies. The Russian Navy, the Russian Army, di ba? Ganun, di ba? Ganun yung mindset ng Russians So, don't you think, I mean, of course, we're a US treaty ally. Of course, there's CAATSA sanctions. But shouldn't we also have some strategic engagement with Russia? Like some drills, some interaction, to make sure na hindi tayo, or we can help driving a wedge between these two, together with Vietnam, India, and others?
Well, the Vietnamese tried that. They got the Russian oil companies to partner with them just to ward off the Chinese, because if you're partnered your partner is Russia, then probably the Chinese will be kind to you. But nothing of that kind happened. I mean, the Chinese still stopped the Vietnamese from exploring uh, the area together with the Russians. So nothing happened there. So it didn't work for Vietnam, I think. And Vietnam is closer to Russia than the Philippines, no, in terms of history, in terms of during the Vietnam War. So uh, I don't think we can play that game because we don't really have historical ties with Russia. And at any time of the day, Russia will choose China over us.
So what you're saying is it's too much of a risk or anything like that. Although I would say, of course, in counter justice that, Vietnam got its Kilo class submarines from Russia. It's about to buy, based on the New York Times report, $8 billion in additional ones. But what you're saying is, wala, stuck ang Vietnam. Wala na silang options. Their only big producer of weapons suppliers is Russia. So they have to stick to it. Unlike us in the Philippines, we have options and we're US treaty ally. Is that what you're saying? Like, Russia is not worth the risk. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
well, Russia will sell to us their submarines if we pay for them in full. But of course, the
And get
Americans will say
sanctioned by US and get
you
sanctioned.
get sanctioned by the U.S. So, uh, at least we got the BrahMos. That's a joint venture with India.
In Russia, yeah.
That's why China objected to that, but I don't know how the Indians got away with that. But so we have to take advantage of that and buy more.
So maybe we buy more Russian weapons via India, right? Or something like that, diba? Or work with Vietnamese on some weapons development na Russian thing. So like essentially we'll have it indirect. Parang thanks for the inspiration, Moscow, but we'll get it from... Kasi Indians make it cheaper pa, diba? They get the Russian technology, they make it even more affordable.
Yes, and they extend credit also.
Yes, that's a very important one. Actually, yun ang narinig ko, Justice, nung time ni Digong. Kasi I covered a lot the Russia angle. And, I talk a lot with the Russians experts, etc. Yun daw, wala nang credit, wala silang pera eh. Like, wala, you want it, you pay for it, my friend. My friend, you pay for it now. I mean, like, wala na silang di ba? Unlike Chinese,
Yeah,
American.
remember we deposited for those Russian
Copper,
helicopters,
200
and
million, di ba? Oo.
yeah, and they didn't give it back to us when we canceled it.
Oh my God. Makanang forward na 80 million, something like that? Parang
About
malaki.
$100 million.
Oh, wow. Kinain na. Wala, Duterte should reimburse us. Kasalanan yan eh. So, di ba US said they will replace that daw with their, with, I don't know which chopper they were offering us. But di ba yun
Yeah,
ang...
in fact, they did. Yes, but the, we cannot recover what we deposited.
So yun pala eh. We gave them $100 million for free. China will never do that, Justice. May utang na loob ang Russia. China will not give even a penny in free to Russia. We gave them 100 million because of Digong. So I don't know. I'm gonna pull some strings there with Russians. Hey, my friend, you $100 million. You have to give it back. Okay, Justice. I see your skepticism. I understand completely where you're coming from. But your point is, doon na tayo sa India and Vietnam diretso na. Wag na natin wag na tayo mag-play footsie with the
Yeah,
Kremlin, all of
we can get the missiles from India, and they're very good. No, those BrahMos missiles are very good.
And these BrahMos are supersonic, I think Mach 3 or 4, but meron silang hypersonic version din yan, no? So down the road, we can also get the
Yes, we
hypersonic
can.
version.
Yeah.
So para matuwa si Aimee na meron din tayong hypersonic, 'di ba? Kasi mukhang tuwang-tuwa si basta hyper, supra, yung mga ganun, para lagay mo ng mga superlatives. Matatakot na yung mga natin, mga ka-DDS
Yung
natin.
hypersonic, yung Iskander at saka the other hypersonic missiles of Russia are all being shot down by the Patriot missiles
Supply
in
sa
Ukraine.
Ukraine. Yeah, supply. Yun nga din sabi ko, like, are these people even following realities on the ground? After all the hype, parang hypersonic siya, puro siyang hype. Puro siyang hype. Nung ginamit sa Ukraine, walang kakwenta-kwenta. But yung mga 5th generation fighters nila, di ba? Yung mga Su-75 ba yan? Or Su-57s? I have models of that. I thought it was, puro sinashad. Yung iba nga, nagka-crash na lang on their own. So like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of, yeah.
When the hypersonic missiles of Russia were shot down by the Patriot missiles, Putin had the scientists who develop it investigated. Bakit? Why did it work?
Na Duterte din sila, baka na Duterte din yung mga, I mean, hindi SU-27 guys, as in yung SU-57, may mga nagre-react kasi dito natitrigger yung mga, mga ka-Kremlin natin dyan. Justice, now let's go back to the latest developments dito sa Ayungin Shoal. So the last time we were talking last week, medyo it was in the aftermath, afterglow, I mean, of all that communication, FOPA, the whole Bersamin thing, the whole Gibo thing and all. So now, nagkaroon ng meeting ulit between DFA and China, from what I understand. And also, the AFP has made statements including kailangan daw may compensation, $1 million or something dun sa lost thumb at saka injury na na-inflict ng China. What is your understanding of this conversation going on between the two sides?
Well, the Russians, the Chinese are saying that we can have co-development or joint venture, but the definition of China for co-development is that we share equally the sovereign rights or the sovereignty over that area. So that means we will be giving up half of our sovereign rights. I mean, that's a no-go. I mean, you're crazy to accept that. So we're back really to square one. No? They keep on saying co-development, and we know what that means. Hati, including the sovereign rights. We can never do that. And then what AFP Chief Browner said that the next time they will not allow themselves to be bullied. They will fight back. If the Chinese will use bladed weapons, our troops will use bladed weapons also. So this is yun nga, what you said about this ghost ship and fighting with ancient weapons. I mean, this is what I see, no? But maganda yan kasi no firearms. Just mano-mano lang.
Yung Operation Moro Badjao natin, mukhang may pag-asa pa, Justice. Mukhang it might go there, yeah. Eventually and all.
Yeah, but I'm sure if the Chinese know that our troops are also armed with bladed weapons, they're not going to board. Because, of course, they patas ang laban, they'll never do that.
I mean, pwede rin natin pakita yung Arnis na Filipino skills. Ayan, baka si Senator Mig Zubiri, champion yan, di ba? Baka pwede niya turuan yung mga ba since hindi na siya Senate President. Now, Justice, again, I mean, realistically, how can we de-escalate tensions? I mean, let's just pretend, continue with this kind of, continue with this, kunyari talking past each other. I mean, how can we diffuse tensions to make sure it doesn't get out of control? Or your contention is, my understanding, your contention is, yeah, let's just do what we have until the Chinese accept ito na talagang reality na hindi tayo push over. What should be the next steps here in terms of making sure that this doesn't get out of control?
Well, we can airdrop some of the supplies, and then we can use faster small boats to deliver. It's a matter of it's a race actually. So there are many things that we can do, and we can arm our troops with bladed weapons, so that will deter them, no? Because patas ang laban eh. So naunahan lang tayo because the Chinese knew that we would not use their firearms, and they knew that we did not have bladed weapons, so we could only use our bare hands. So ang tapang nila. But if our troops had the same bladed weapons, I'm sure they would not have been able to puncture the ribs the way they did it, no?
Yeah, so what we're seeing here is just a few adjustments and all. Admiral Ong talked about usage of big vessels, big ships, and na mas malapit siguro from there we can deploy some of these patrols, patrol boats. May proposal din, I think, was it you or Admiral about bringing in, kind of a rig, a platform, a movable platform na para may additional structure ka dyan in addition to BRP Sierra Madre. What are the other ways where we can solidify and concretize, literally perhaps, our presence in the area? Kasi in China may preponderance of force around eh.
Well,
at kinukat yung supply lines natin eh.
Well, we should announce that we are putting up a civilian structure, a lighthouse, a marine research center, and Coast Guard substation, and bring materials there. I'm sure the Chinese will stop us. Once they